Hey, you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here with another TNINews video. Now, I know it's been a while since I've done one of these news videos. I've been doing focusing on reviews recently, but I did want to put out there's been some developments on the Marvel front with some Marvel toys and entertainment and stuff, so I wanted to go on and crank one out today. But again, it has been a little while. Now, before I get into any news, first let me just update you on some things going on with the website. So as of today, we just launched a brand new forum contest where we're giving away another $100 store credit to your choice of either Big Bad Toy Store or Megalopolis Toys. This will be going on for 2 weeks. It's basically where you go over and you start contributing to the topics there. It's pretty easy. Hopefully it will be fun for you, getting involved in a community that's completely dedicated to action figure collecting, which I assume if you're watching this video is something that interests you. What better way to do that than have a chance not only to contribute and mingle with other collectors, but then have a chance to win great prizes as well. And we've been doing really fairly regularly for several months now, at least 3 or 4 months now, where we've been doing this on the forum. So, even if you don't win this time, we'll do it again. So, sooner or later, the chances are pretty good that you're going to win if you keep contributing over there on those message boards. So I will put a link to that in the video description, so you can get all the specific details, and hopefully if you're not already signed up on the message boards over there, hopefully you will, and become an active participant over there. And we are also doing our TNI Toy Awards, where essentially we're letting you guys first we had the first round where you guys nominated everything. That's already closed, so the nomination process is closed. But now we've got the first round of voting going on, and that's actually going to be coming to an end here in just a couple of days on January 25th. But if you haven't been over there and if you haven't voted for your favorite things like Toy of the Year, Action Figure, Toy Company of the Year, even things like Toy Reviewer of the Year, things like that, you should head over there and do that. Not only will you have an opportunity to be entered into the contest, but you also will be voting for some of your favorite things like what's your favorite action figure of the year. So and we will be presenting actual awards for all the categories. So we'll be doing it at Toy Fair in February, where most of the toy companies are and everything. But if it's something where it's like a toy reviewer and they're not at Toy Fair, then they'll have the option of having the award mailed to them. So if you've got a favorite toy reviewer, hopefully they made the nomination list and you can go over and vote for them now. Things like customizers, toy photographers, we've got categories for those things as well. And then, like I said, the basics like Toy Company of the Year and Action Figure of the Year and so on and so forth. So I will put a link to that in the video description as well. Okay, so on to the news front. So since it has been a while since I've done a news video, I am going to recap briefly a couple of things that maybe is news that broke several weeks ago. So first thing, on the let me start with the entertainment front, because there are some things on the Marvel entertainment front that I wanted to just talk about briefly. So first of all, since I've last done a news video, there's been a new trailer for the upcoming Spider-Man sequel, the Far From Home Spider-Man movie. So that was definitely interesting. We saw some pretty cool things. We saw Mysterio. We knew he was going to be in the movie. At least if you've been following the news and everything, we knew he was going to be in the movie, but we got our actual first look at the character. We got a look at Spider-Man's new suit. And, first thing when I saw this trailer is I wondered how many people were going to complain about spoilers, because obviously, I think most of us pretty much knew that Spider-Man and Nick Fury, who also appears in the trailer, were not going to stay dead after the events of Avengers Infinity War. But still, nevertheless, it was technically a spoiler. So I didn't really look, but I just wondered how many people were out there saying, man, this is a spoiler, what the hell? That's the internet for you. But anyway, I thought the trailer was cool. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Are you excited for that movie? I'm more excited probably for that movie than I am Captain Marvel. While Captain Marvel doesn't look bad to me, I don't know. It just doesn't seem as exciting to me Same thing with the action figures. If you've been catching my reviews of the new Captain Marvel, Marvel Legend Wave, it just seems like it was rushed, and a lot of paint app flaws, and just not very exciting. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I don't follow Captain Marvel that closely in the comic books. Never really have, other than when she was on the Avengers and stuff. And I do remember when she was binary and hung out with the Starjammers and stuff back in the day. But, again, it's just not a character that I've ever really followed that closely. So I guess that's in large part why the movie doesn't excite me that much. And then obviously, I want to get to Avengers Endgame, like I'm sure many of you want to. And so this is just like, oh, let's just get on to Endgame and see what happens. So I'm sure this movie will play a role, because Captain Marvel will be playing a role. I'm pretty sure it's almost a given that she will be in the new Avengers movie. And then also this past weekend, we got the debut of the second season of Punisher on Netflix. I actually binge watched it this weekend, so I've seen the whole season. And overall, I thought it was pretty enjoyable. I liked what they were doing with the character. I will say the overall plot and the villains, maybe weren't quite as good as I was hoping for. If you don't think about the plot too much, then it's pretty cool. But if you start really thinking about certain things, and I'm not going to, this is going to be spoiler free, so I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't seen it yet. But, there were some things that was like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, nevertheless, I thought it was decent. Now, the big question, I think, on everybody's mind is, will there be a third season of Punisher? Will Netflix keep it going, or will they cancel it like they've been doing with most of the other Marvel-based shows? My feeling is it probably will be canceled. My guess is in large part because I think Disney and Marvel just want to move these shows over to their own streaming service, which is kicking off this year. Now, I do know based on the contracts that the original 4 Netflix shows, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones, that even though those shows, all of them except for Jessica Jones at this point, have been canceled, it will be probably at least 2 years before we see them anyplace else, because as I understand it, there's something in the contract between Disney and Netflix that says that they can't show those characters on other shows, and for at least 2 years once they've been canceled on the Netflix series. Now, the Punisher does not fall within that, so if they do cancel Punisher, we could see a third season of Punisher like next year, possibly even. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. So, it's been pretty quick. They didn't wait a whole lot of time. Daredevil, they announced its cancellation right after the last season aired. So, I suspect within the next week or so, if they are going to cancel Punisher, we will be hearing that news pretty soon. Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did you check out the second season of Punisher? What did you think about it? And do you want to see it get, canceled and maybe picked up by the Disney streaming service, or do you want to see it stay on Netflix? Now, the final bit of entertainment news I wanted to touch upon. This morning, it was the 2019 Oscar nominations were announced. And the big news from that, at least if you're a Marvel fan, is that Black Panther has been nominated for Best Picture of the Year. I believe this is the first time that a comic book based movie like this has been nominated for that. Now, it's up against some pretty stern competition, so will it actually win? My guess is probably not, but it's pretty cool that it was actually nominated. Now, that movie was also nominated for a few other things, the typical type of categories that we see these movies nominated for, things like Best Production Design, Costume Design, Sound Editing, Sound Mixing, and Original Score. So all Black Panther has been nominated for all of those, and good chance they'll win at least some of those. But again, the big news is that it was nominated for Best Picture. Now, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the new Spider-Man animated movie, that was actually nominated, that's Sony, and that was nominated for Best Animated Feature. So essentially the animated equivalent, Best Picture. And I think that does have a good chance of winning that award. Definitely, I think that was probably one of the best animated movies I've seen this year. And then Avengers Infinity War did actually pick up a nomination for Best Visual Effects. That was the only thing it was nominated for, but I could see it winning as well. Okay, so now let's hop into the action figure news, which is what most of you are probably watching this channel for. So first thing, just a quick recap. I think it was this past weekend, Hasbro released official images for the upcoming X-Men wave, the newest X-Men wave, which is the Caliban Build-A-Figure wave. So we saw these figures at the various conventions this past fall, but now we're getting the official packaged images, and I do believe this wave will go up for pre-order pretty soon. I don't think it's going to be released until probably end of February or early March, I think is when the release date for that wave is. Now, these can fluctuate and vary, and they can show up overseas before anywhere else like they always do. But I think, we'll probably really start seeing this wave hit shelves at the end of February at the earliest, and probably more likely early March. Now, just to recap, this wave includes fan favorites like Gambit, the Jim Lee style Beast, and the Jim Lee style Jubilee figures. Those are probably the three that everybody wants the most, especially that Beast figure. And then we're also going to be getting characters like Blink, Weapon X, Forge, and the Skullbuster, the Reverse Skullbuster. So that's the figure. Those are the figures that round out that wave. And then again, the Build-A-Figure for that wave is the Mutant Caliban, which first appeared, I think, in the pages of X Factor, if I remember correctly. And essentially, he's kind of a mutant hunter. He can kind of find mutants and stuff, if I remember correctly. So the figure looks good. I can't say the character itself was something I found super exciting, but the figure definitely, when I saw it, I think it was New York Toy Fair, or not New York Toy Fair, but New York Comic Con, I really thought that figure looked good. The head sculpt was really nice and everything. So, and then again, the things like the Jim Lee Beast and Jim Lee style Jubilee will be rounding out your Jim Lee X-Men team, which I know everybody is trying to get completed. We still need the updated Storm figure, and I would like to see a Nightcrawler figure, which hopefully, maybe we'll see this year. Maybe even as soon as at Toy Fair in February. Hot Toys last week, they kind of surprised us with something pretty cool. So they're doing a new Iron Man figure. Now that in its own right is not surprising, but it's actually War Machine, and it's actually Punisher and the War Machine armor. So it was a storyline that they did recently where Punisher had gotten a hold of the War Machine armor and painted his skull on it and everything, and was wearing it and basically doing his thing in that armor. So they're taking this design based on the Future Fight video game. I guess he used it in that as well. But again, it was an actual comic book storyline that just recently came to an end a month or so ago, where he was wearing the War Machine armor. But Hot Toys is going to be doing this. Definitely, he's got the skull on his chest. He's got the skull on the mask. Looks really cool. It is currently up for pre-order at places like Big Bad Toy Store and Megalopolis Toys. So, if you want to pre-order it now, you can. And I like it because, A, it's the Punisher, and B, it's kind of even though, again, they're technically saying it's a video game-based figure, I consider it more of a comic book-based figure, which we don't generally see from the likes of Hot Toys. Now, you've probably heard by now that the new Marvel Legend Deluxe sets, which features Professor Xavier in the hover chair, going along with your Jim Lee style X-Men, and then the Deadpool set with the scooter and the squirrel pool and such, those have started to show up in Canada. So we already posted reviews over on marvelousnews.com with those. But those should start being released here in the United States in March, though it could be sooner since they are already out in Canada. But if you see them like on eBay or such, that's probably where they're coming from, is Canada, because they have definitely started showing up, hitting shelves there. And I've seen a lot of people get their hands on it already. Unfortunately, I have not yet gotten my hands on those. Definitely want to get the Professor Xavier, which also comes with the Shadow King head sculpt that you can put on the Kingpin Build-A-Figure. And then there's also, again, the Deadpool with the scooter. That one I'm less enthused about, but still looks like a pretty good set overall. Now, both of those are currently up for pre-order, again, at places like Big Bad Toy Store and Megalopolis Toys. So if you want to make sure that you get your hands on those, I'd probably recommend you put your pre-orders in now. Now on the MAFEX front, for you guys who've been collecting the Marvel MAFEX figures, it looks like you're going to be able to add Wolverine to your collection pretty soon, sometime this year. So we've got this magazine scan from an overseas magazine that comes via Toys Front Line, and I'll put a link to their page in the video description. They're the ones that posted this image. Now, I don't have any real official details at this point or release date. That will probably be coming soon, as well as with more images, which we will post on Marvelous News once that does become available. But based on this magazine scan, it looks like Wolverine is going to have multiple pairs of hands. Looks like at least one of the pairs of hands is going to have removable claws with it. And then you're also going to have multiple head sculpts, one of which is an unmasked head sculpt. You also notice that there's a mask there, and I don't know if that is for just his head, but if you also look at the head sculpt images, it looks like there's a mask that you can put on his, so it goes around his neck. We've seen that with like the Marvel Legends and stuff. I don't know if there's two different versions of the mask, one that he can hold in his hand and one you can put on his neck, but definitely, you know, with the unmasked head sculpt, that looks pretty nice. So I'm definitely digging that. So again, I don't have any kind of release date on this, but hopefully that information will be coming soon. So keep it to Marvelous News for the latest updates on that front. Okay, now flipping back to the Marvel Legend front, I wanted to talk about some production samples that showed up on eBay a couple weeks ago. So specifically production samples for the new Hercules, Nighthawk, and Living Laser figures. Now all three of these figures we had seen at the fall conventions this past year by Hasbro. They announced all three of these figures. And at one of those conventions, they actually said that all three of these figures, as well as Beta Ray Bill, Citizen V from the Thunderbolts, Loki, the classic Loki, and Union Jack would be part of an Avengers wave. Not necessarily the same Avengers wave, but would be part of an Avengers wave. So my guess was at the time that they were going to be doing two Avengers waves for 2019, and they'd be breaking these figures up between those two waves. These are all obviously comic book based figures, so you know we probably would see these comic book based figures mixed in with movie figures. And I'm guessing, and this is just a guess on my part, but I'm guessing that these three figures that we're seeing the production samples show up on eBay for are going to be part of that first wave of Avengers figures. And then the remaining figures in the wave will likely be for Avengers Endgame. Now, when we will see this wave, I don't know for sure. I'm guessing probably around the time the movie comes out, around that kind of March or April time frame. So, and you know, whether we see these at Toy Fair, I mean, we'll probably see these comic book based figures at Toy Fair, but whether Hasbro is able to show any of the movie figures at Toy Fair, I do not know. Last year, I remember that the first wave of Avengers Infinity War figures had actually already been released. We had posted reviews of them and everything, but because of some kind of official release announced date, Hasbro actually was not even able to talk about those figures, you know, not even acknowledge their existence at that time. So, you know, it can be a tricky thing. And so again, I don't know. It'll be based on what the studio lets them talk about and not talk about. So we could conceivably see the figures, you know, come out and them still not be able to talk about them at Toy Fair. I don't know. But that's how it was last year. And so, you know, who knows how long it'll be before we actually see the Avengers Marvel Legends Endgame figures for this first Avengers wave. Now, speaking of Avengers Endgame figures, there have actually been some figures that have started to show up. Looks like actually in stores somewhere overseas. I've heard Vietnam. I don't know if that's exactly where these were found, but definitely based on these images, it looks like these Avengers Endgame figures are showing up someplace. Now, these are not Marvel Legend based figures. These images come via Marvel Flix ARG. And looks like, you know, he found them in a store someplace. So these are Titan Hero figures, the larger scale figures from Hasbro, as well as a couple of their 6-inch basic figures. And so for the basic figures, we've got Thanos here, and he's decked out in his armor like we saw briefly in Avengers Infinity War. So I don't know if that means he's going to be putting the armor back on for Endgame, but definitely seems like a good likelihood. And then we've got Hulk, who's wearing one of those strange Avengers suits, which we have seen before. We've seen images leak out showing these suits before. We still don't really know what they are. I am guessing they do have some kind of significance for the movie, you know, whether they're quantum suits, time jumping suits, or what have you. I just don't know, but definitely I think it's something that's going to play a role in the movie. And so we've got Hulk and Thanos with that 6-inch basic line, and then for the Titan heroes, we've got other characters wearing those same suits as the Hulk, with Rocket Raccoon, Thor, Black Widow. They're all wearing those suits. We're getting a look at Ronan, which we know is Hawkeye from the trailer and everything. And then also Iron Spider and Captain America. And then another one that could be a potential real spoiler here is Valkyrie. So I wouldn't say that because we're getting a figure of her in the Titan Heroes line, that necessarily means that Valkyrie, who was mysteriously missing from that opening scene in Avengers Infinity War, you know, she was in that ship, that Asgardian ship at the end of Thor Ragnarok, and then she was nowhere to be seen in Avengers Infinity War, which was kind of strange. But, you know, again, because we're getting this figure does not necessarily mean she's in the movie. It could be that Hasbro's just going back because they want to do more female characters. They're going back to older movies like Thor Ragnarok and doing that character. She is wearing the Valkyrie suit and everything. It could also mean that she is in the movie and will have a role. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, I wouldn't just necessarily assume that she's in the movie because we're getting a Titan Heroes figure of her. But, you know, definitely it's kind of interesting. You know, I'm really interested to see what these suits, what's the meaning behind these suits. Obviously, I don't think it's that they're going to all wear generic suits as their standard superhero outfit. You know, they're not the X-Men. The Avengers, I don't think have ever done that. So obviously there's got to be some significance to this suit and why they're wearing it. But again, we'll just have to wait and see. There was no sign of those suits in the first trailer, but probably we will start to see those in the second trailer whenever that gets released. Okay, and then the final bit of news I wanted to share with you guys is I wanted to share these new in-hand images that come via Cookie Time. He sent us these images of the new Captain Marvel movie Marvel Legends store exclusive figures. So I talked about these in a previous video, and we've posted about these on Marvelous News. It's the binary figure that has the translucent parts to give you that power-up effect like you see in the trailer, and then the Star Force version of Captain Marvel in the green outfit, which you also see her wear in the trailer. And so both of these figures here in the United States are going to be store exclusives. The binary figure will be released as a Walmart exclusive, and then the Star Force figure here is going to be released as a Target exclusive. Now, Cookie Time, he lives overseas, so he got his hands on these figures from overseas. I'm guessing these figures are already starting to see release over there. Here in the United States, they should be released anytime. They were slated with a mid-January release date. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't really start seeing them until early February, but again, those should be out here in the U.S. pretty soon, within the next few weeks. And the binary figure is probably, in my opinion at least, and at least going by these images and stuff, is the coolest of the Marvel Legend Captain Marvel figures that we've gotten for the movie. I was not super impressed if you caught my reviews of the ones in the Kree Sentry Build-A-Figure wave, the head sculpts, which really is no improvement on that regard, but I do like the power-up effects that are included with that figure. And then the cool thing about the Star Force version is you get an extra Minerva head, so you can switch it out and use it as the character Minerva, so it's kind of two characters in one, which is always kind of a cool thing. So a big thanks to Cookie Time for sending us these images. I will put a link. He did a video talking about these. It is in a foreign language, but I will put a link to that video in the video description below. And again, these figures probably should be out within a couple weeks. And if you want to catch the images, I'll put a link to the story in Marvelous News as well. And you can check out all the images in detail there. Okay, so that's it for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on everything we talked about today. Have you seen the new Punisher show or season? Did you like it? You know, are you excited for Avengers Endgame? What did you think about the Spider-Man Far From Home trailer? You know, share your thoughts down below. And as always, you know, please subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button and hit the bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. Also, please head over to the TNI message boards so you can participate in the contest going on over there for the $100 store credit to either Big Bad Toy Store or Megalopolis Toys. It's really an easy and fun way to try and win cool stuff. And, you know, you can also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I have links to all those in the video description as well. Until next time, guys, I will catch you later.